Quinn held the gun steady on Brad now, the tables having turned. His eyes flickered slowly open. The gun in Quinn's hand shook. "Go on. Shoot me. I will do what I have to," Quinn responded, taking steady breaths. Quinn pictured her children's eyes, their smiling faces when she returned home from work every night. She remembered Fred's face when he smiled at her children and his own son, Jake. Even in this precarious situation, Quinn knew she had to survive for her children and find out if Jake was indeed her missing son. Brad stood on shaky feet and rubbed at the back of his head. "You should sit down. You probably have a concussion. You hit your head pretty hard," Quinn instructed. "Yeah, 'cause you pushed me," Brad yelled at her. "Sit. Sit down, Brad." "You're not gonna get out of this alive," Brad yelled. "If my father is dead, then you should be too." "I am getting out of this. I will see my children again. Help is coming," Quinn snapped. Brad made a show of looking in all directions of the garage. "Looks like there's no one here but us here. Are you sure that you called the right number?" Brad asked. "Yes, I called the right number," Quinn said evenly. She wouldn't let him distract her. She tightened her grip on the gun and focused it between Brad's eyes. "Do you even know how to use that?" Brad motioned toward the weapon in her hands. Quinn cocked the gun in response, and Brad held up his hands. "Sit back down. I won't say it again," Quinn commanded. Brad sat down in the middle of the garage. He held his head in his hands. "Please come through, Fred," Quinn thought to herself. She was confident that either the police or Fred's personal security team were coming to her rescue. It was just a matter of how long they took to find her. A sudden bang at the door brought Quinn back to her senses. Then she heard the sound of a helicopter whirling overhead. Brad jumped up and leaned his head against the door. A voice echoed through a megaphone. "Police, come out with your hands up! Police, open up! Come out with your hands up!" Brad glared at Quinn. "I'm not just gonna let you go." He then sprung forward and grabbed Quinn by the arm. She dropped the gun. Brad picked it up and pressed the barrel to her forehead. The sirens blared outside the door. Quinn held her breath. She was so close to being free, but Brad still had the gun against her forehead. Just then, the door burst open and cops filled the room. Brad yelled, and at the same time, Quinn shoved her shoulder as hard as she could into Brad's stomach. He yelped and released her. The gun fell from his hands. Quinn crawled into a ball to protect herself. Brad struggled with the police officer. Then, the room went eerily silent. Quinn peeked out from behind her arms. A bright light filled her eyes. "Dr. Quinn Murphy?" Quinn nodded. The police officer lowered his flashlight. "It's all right. You're safe." The officer held out his hand to her. "Your family is waiting for you at the station." The officer motioned her out of the open door. His words had never been so welcome. Quinn crumpled in relief. When Quinn finally got to the police station later that day, all 3 children rushed up to her with joy. Quinn embraced them and held them tight against her chest. Fred came up behind them and opened his arms to hug them all. Everyone burst into tears. Police officers moved around them through the building, but Quinn and her family were too happy to notice. Max, Fred's head of security, stood by the front door. He stepped forward and held out his card to Quinn. "Dr. Murphy, my number. We've arranged for more security at the hospital and rides to and from work. Please, call me for any concerns, big or small." Quinn took the card. "Thank you." Fred kissed Quinn's cheek. "I'm so glad you're safe." "Mommy, please don't leave us again," Sammy cried into her shoulder. Quinn squeezed her shoulder. "I won't," Quinn promised. Denny clung to her side. "No, Mom, no more work." "He's right," Fred agreed. You should take a few days for yourself. Rest. After a few moments, a police officer approached the family. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we need to interview you, Dr. Murphy. Right, of course. Quinn followed the officer across the office lobby. She passed by a tear-stained Brad in handcuffs. Quinn stopped and stared at Brad until he met Quinn's eyes. Stay away from me and my family. You hear that? Quinn snapped. Brad looked away from her and hung his head, ashamed. Quinn leaned down and waited until Brad looked at her again. I mean it, Quinn snapped. I will, Brad mumbled. I'm sorry. Fred came up behind Quinn and squeezed her shoulder. He leaned down and whispered in her ear. Let's all stay at my place tonight. The kids don't want to be apart from you, and I don't either. Quinn's whole face lit up. I would love that. Later that night, Quinn and Fred drove the 3 children back to Fred's penthouse apartment in New York. The children were fast asleep when they arrived and had to be carried inside. Let's all sleep out here, Quinn whispered. She motioned toward the living room with a luxurious couch that occupied half the room. There's plenty of space for us all. Okay, I'd like that, Fred whispered. Quinn smiled. Fred sat on the floor by the boys, and Quinn curled up next to her daughter. I didn't think I was ever going to see you again, Fred mumbled. Quinn stared at him. He avoided her eyes. I thought I was going to have to raise these kids all alone. Fred wiped his eyes. Quinn reached out and squeezed his hand. You would have done a great job if that's what you had to do, Quinn told him. Thank you. Fred squeezed her hand back. He looked back to Jake and stroked his hair. I was most worried about Jake. He'd just gotten used to having you around. I think, if you were all right with it, that soon he might start calling you Mom. Quinn felt the tears gather at the corner of her eyes. Quinn knew in her heart that Jake was her missing son, and that all her children were finally back together again. She just needed to find Mrs. Sinclair and find out why her son had been taken from her in the first place. A couple of days later, Quinn returned to the hospital. She couldn't wait to get back to work and see patients. She opened the door to her office to find her supervisor, Dr. Dean Crawford, waiting for her. Dr. Crawford, what are you doing in here? Quinn asked. Could we talk for a minute? Quinn immediately felt uneasy, but she forced herself to sit down across from her superior. Of course. What can I help you with? I'm so sorry to do this to you on your first day back, especially after what an ordeal you've had. Do what? Quinn asked. Dr. Murphy, your contract here has been terminated. You are no longer a doctor at Roosevelt Memorial.
Hi, Quinn here. And if you're wondering what happens next, click on the link in the description to listen to the full audio series. You can also watch the next episode here in the playlist.